Hi, friends. So, this week I'm going to work on some more craft kits because I have a ton that I'm really eager to get to. I'm going to start with these two. And listen, I spent the better part of an hour trying to get rid of the glare on this box, but I'm not a lighting expert. And I just got tired of fighting it, so I'm just going to hold this up in my hand. Anyway, I chose these two kits because they both make bowls. This one is a thread bowl kit, and this one is a paper bowl kit. And just by looking at them, I'm going to guess that they both use the same sort of paper mache technique of using glue to harden it and hold its shape. So let's see. I'm going to start with this one. The box says 8+, which we know how well I do with that.
It's only paper and glue, perfect for little trinkets.
Let me also just note that this kit is made by Monter, which is the same company that made that koala latch kit. Bowls are decorative and not for use with food. Good to know. Let's see what we've got inside. We have a little spongy brush, a bag of a bunch of paper, 3 different bowl sizes, and a giant jar of water-based glue. The paper is kind of stiff and thick, kind of like thin cardboard. We also have instructions. Let the bowls dry on the form for 5 days. Are you kidding me? I have to wait 5 days? Oh my god, I can't believe that. Since this is going to involve a lot of glue and probably make a mess, I put down a silicone mat in almost the exact same color as my background. First, I'm going to sort through these circles and separate them into color groups so I can have a little bit of a color scheme going on. Is this excessive? Yes. But if this is going to take 5 days, this better come out not looking like butt. I'm going to start with the smallest bowl first. The instructions say to coat both sides of the circle generously, and even though I'm trying to be delicate at first, I can tell this is going to get messy. I'm supposed to start at the rim and work my way up, and I planned out the placement of the circles, so I'm working in a little bit of a pattern. I'm trying to only slightly overlap them, but I might have overestimated how many circles I would need for this first layer. Putting these circles on was a struggle. They're not bending at all. They just stick straight up. The instructions say to wait a few minutes and press the edges down, but that didn't seem to work. I tried bending some of them to see if that helped, and I even tried just holding the edges down for a few seconds to let the glue sort of grab on, but I think the glue is too watery for that to take. I eventually just gave up on the brush and used my fingers since they were covered in glue anyway. This whole process was so slimy. All of the circles are sliding around, my spacing is not staying, and I keep getting big holes in some areas. I also have goopy glue in every nook and cranny of my fingers. I'm not a squeamish person because I work with small children. This is kind of like finger painting with snot. The circles did eventually soften slightly as the glue kind of worked into the cardboard, but it's still not quite flat, and the edges would tend to pop back up. A little bit of patience might have helped me here, like maybe if I waited about 5 minutes for one row to sort of dry out and set a bit before I moved on to the next row, there might have been less slippage. But I was already covered in glue, so I didn't want to sit there and wait. Instead, I just spent a lot of time trying to smooth everything down, like really pushing the edges and trying to massage the glue in. Finally, when this bowl was done, I set it aside to dry and washed my hands 4 times. I got a fresh silicone mat in a nice booger color, and I'm going to work on the middle-sized bowl. For this bowl, I tried using less circles, and before I began, I spent some time wiggling and bending all of the circles to try and soften the cardboard. I also remembered to take off my rings and watch. Here we go. I tried coating the bowl form first with glue. I'm not sure if it actually helped, but it felt like a good idea. I used pretty much the same techniques as the first time, except that I didn't even bother to use the foam brush this time, except as a way to slop glue all over my fingers. but I still spent most of the time smushing it down and smoothing a fat layer of glue over everything. The circles do seem to be laying nicer this time, but I have an idea I want to try for the last one. So for this last bowl, which is the biggest one, I'm going to try to wet the circles a bit to see if I can soften them even more. I made a mix of glue and water and put some of the circles into the mix to have some time to absorb the water. Again, I put glue on the form first and just started putting the circles on. I really didn't worry about a cute pattern or color scheme this time because by this point I'd spent about 2 hours covered in glue, and I've fully embraced the grossness now. This actually worked pretty well, except that I probably should have used a bigger bowl for my glue water mix because I kept having to add the circles in small batches, and I struggled to get some of the circles out when they stuck to the bottom. The circles do still slide around a bit, but overall this works so much better. They're laying so much more flat on this bowl compared to the others. I also spent only about a quarter of the time that I did on the first 2 forms, smoothing everything down and massaging glue over everything. Then I let all 3 bowls dry overnight. The next step in the instructions is to add 3 more thin coats of glue over the bowls, letting it dry until the glue is clear in between each coat. I'm going to try to do this with a brush in the hopes that I won't get glue everywhere, because I've been picking glue out of my nails all day long. This actually worked pretty well, neat and fast, except for this. What the heck? It's like the glue just fully peeled away from the circle. I have no idea why that happened because it never did that anywhere else before or after. After 3 coats of glue, I'm going to set these aside to dry for 5 freaking days. And while those are drying, I'm going to work on this thread bowls kit. This is made by Monter too. I wonder why that one was Craftastic and this one is Craft Crush. Weird. Anyway, this one looks like it's pretty much the same concept except with thread. It probably has the same sort of glue too, but let's open it. We have the instructions, thread, the tiniest little baby bowls, these paper things, and this itty bitty little bottle of glue. Let's check out the instructions. This says 13 plus, so it must be harder. This one only needs to dry overnight, and then you can remove it? Why doesn't it need 5 days? First, I'm going to take a look at the thread colors and make a plan. Can I do a rainbow? Red, orange. There's no yellow. Well, there is, but it's kind of a butt yellow. A greenish butt yellow. How about pink instead? Nope, that yellow still just ruins it. After fiddling around some more, I ended up going with all blue for the first bowl. The instructions don't really say how much you might need, so I'm just going to use each bundle until it runs out. I'm going to start with the smallest little baby bowl. The paper thing is actually double-sided tape. So I peeled one side off, tried to center it on the form, and smooth all of the petals down. The instructions say to push out all of the wrinkles, and I don't want to mess this up because a rogue wrinkle got in there. I peeled off the other side of the backing, and we're ready to go. Starting in the center and making a little spiral, and wow, this is sticky. I'm trying to use my nails to push the thread into place and doing my best not to actually touch the tape itself. I realized I forgot a step. I was supposed to use a cotton fabric to press all over the tape so that it gets coated with cotton fibers. I don't want to get up and hunt, so I just used my shirt. I have no idea what it's made out of, so hopefully it works. No noticeable difference. Great. Back to wrapping the string. This process is actually weirdly relaxing. It must be the constant turning of the bowl hypnotizing me. It is easier once there's a big chunk of string to touch instead of the tape, and it moves pretty quickly. Every once in a while I held it up to the light to make sure that there weren't any gaps. For this first bowl, I just wrapped until I ran out of thread and then changed colors. To do this, I placed the end of the new thread against the old thread and then pressed it into place. It was surprisingly easy. I use my nails mostly, but you could probably just use any pointy thing, like a toothpick or a pencil. I kept wrapping until I got to the rim, then it became a little more obvious that I didn't get the tape flower thing on quite evenly. So there's a few parts right by the rim where there's no tape and the thread is just on the mold itself. To hold the thread tight at the end and not let it unravel, I used my favorite tool, a binder clip. The next step is to brush the glue on with this crazy looking brush. The brush was much easier and much neater than the foam sponge of the other kit, until this happened. Ugh. And apparently we only want a thin coat so that the glue doesn't sink through to the other side. I'm not exactly sure how to control whether it sinks in, so I'm just not really going to worry about it and just paint until the whole thing is coated. And then I'll set it aside to dry. For the second bowl, the medium-sized one, I tried this technique they show in the instructions where you use 3 strings at once to make a stripy spiral. I tried wrapping all 3 at once, but I couldn't get it to lay right and not get twisted. So instead I just wrapped each string individually about halfway around, then the next string, and the next, and then back to the first, and so on. When all 3 strings ran out, I chose a contrasting color to finish the rim of the bowl. Then I clipped the end and painted on a layer of glue. For the largest bowl, I'm going to try and imitate this one I see on the box, mostly because I don't have any better ideas. As I was working and finding this really soothing, I started wondering if I could try this on a larger scale. Maybe with the mold forms from the other kit, or different shaped containers? I mean, I have double-sided tape and buttloads of string. I could do it. Once all 3 bowls were done and the first coat of glue was dry, I did 3 more coats of glue following the instructions. So here they are all dry. I made them on Tuesday, did the extra coats of glue on Wednesday, and it's now Saturday, so they've been drying for about 3 days. They're a little shinier than I was expecting, but they're hard, they're not tacky or anything. I wonder if you could do this with a matte Mod Podge or something. I mean, that's basically glue, right? Let's try taking these off the forms. They actually bend a lot more than I thought they would. I thought they would be really stiff for some reason. Man, this bowl is really stuck on here. The tape is sticking to the form instead of the thread. I kind of assumed the tape would peel away from the form and I'd just have to peel it off the inside of the bowl. It is kind of pulling on the ends of the thread though. I wonder if that's why you want to coat it in cotton fibers so it's less sticky. Well, if so, that's my bad. I am really struggling. It's making a little crease in my bowl. Is this why you have to be 13? I can't get this off. This is why we don't get grand ideas about making it bigger before we finish the one we're testing. I tried to really jam my fat finger in there, and it's free. I don't like that it pulled out the ends of the thread, but I can probably snip them. The form is still kind of sticky, so you could probably use them again. Not sure I will be, though. I'll speed through the other 2 here, but woo, was this a struggle. My hands were getting so tired. I can see why the forms are so small, because if I tried this with one of those forms from the other kit, I might actually die. I'm this close to just cutting off the rim and leaving the rest of the form inside. It continued to pull on the thread inside and leave creases on the outside of the bowls. I even tried using a tool to get between the form and the thread. Oops, just kidding. Let's try this instead. Finally, all 3 are free. The last step is to cut off the excess glue and string at the top. I also tried to trim off some of the loose thread ends, but I need some tinier scissors and some tinier fingers. I couldn't get super close to snip the thread, and I didn't want to mess with it too much and make it worse. But they're finally all done. They're not bad, I guess. Other than the workout to get them free, it's pretty much what I expected. And these are the closest things I had at hand that actually fit inside the bowls. Alright, let's get to these paper bowls. This is what they look like after 4-ish days of drying. I made them on a Monday, did the extra coats of glue on Tuesday, and it's now Saturday. They feel hardened and everything, but some of the glue is not fully clear in a few spots. But I don't have any more time to let them dry, so we're going with it. Peeling the form away from the bowl was surprisingly easy. These forms have enough flexibility without completely bending, and they just sort of pop off. There are weird glue bubbles, I guess you'd call them, where the glue was on the form but not touching the paper. And it made this filmy glue layer that's not fully attached. Plus, there are quite a few areas where the glue is pretty thick and lumpy. It did seem to get better with each bowl. The biggest bowl only has a couple of places with those filmy bubbles, and there's almost no glue lumps. Also, the bowls are pretty bendy. Again, I thought they'd be a little bit stiffer. The directions do say to add a layer of glue to the inside of the bowl to smooth out the surface, but A, I don't have the time left to do that, and B, I'm not sure it would help this mess. I tried to remove some of the film with a couple of stiff bristled brushes, but it didn't work out too well. The glue was just too thick and maybe not dry enough to flake off like I hoped it would. It also left a pretty noticeable rough edge where it did break off. I don't think it's as noticeable on camera, but it looks a mess in here. I gave up and moved on trying to trim the top edge, but this was a struggle too. Since the bowl was upside down while I was constructing it, a lot of the glue puddled at the edges and I can't cut through it. Even where I could trim up to the edge, it still had big lumps right on the lip of the paper. Plus, it's not that easy to get into all the little crevices and angles. I was really getting frustrated and I wanted to chop this up in a rage, but instead I just smashed it. Don't worry, it popped right back out. Stupid, resilient piece of crap. The medium-sized bowl was slightly better, but still had a lot of the same issues as the first, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But the last one is the only one I semi-care about. I have better hopes for this one because the glue didn't really settle at the top, so there's no thick lips on it, and I think I can trim it a lot smoother than the others. And this is where we're at. This one, there's so much glue that I can't get off, and honestly, I don't want to. I hate this. It's going right in the trash. The medium one is slightly better, but I'll still either throw this away or maybe cut the whole edge off. Probably throw it away. This large one is the only one that I'll probably keep, because it doesn't look like complete trash. I have no idea what to put in it though. So, my final thoughts on these kits. The paper bowls aren't bad if you add a few steps like wetting the cardboard to soften it, and if you have a lot of patience for trimming glue. But I'd probably rather just do regular paper mache, so I'm gonna say this kit is a bit of a fail for me. The thread bowls are an okay idea, and actually making them was really relaxing, but I don't know if that outweighs the workout of getting them off of the form. Plus, they're so tiny and flimsy, they're more like a basket than a bowl. They're cute, but I just don't know if it's worth it for a trinket dish. I don't know, I'm tired. So that's all for this week. What do you think? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.